Right guys, it's competition time. Hopefully you've watched Mike McNamara's sail design video and now it's your turn to make your own sail. Over to Flip to explain how.
Hi everyone, I'm Flip Foulds, Oppie and Topper National Squad coach. Today we are going to try and give you some ideas of how to maybe make a sail out of 2 pieces of paper. You need a straight edge, some scissors, a pen or pencil, some sellotape, and then also something that is quite kind of solid but also can be manipulated to try and get a bit of a curve on it. So I've had a bit of a practice at this and tried to find the best way of trying to do it. And the way that I kind of got it is put a piece of paper portrait and a piece of paper landscape. Have the landscape one towards the bottom because the bottom of sails are generally wider. And so what I did first was got my pen and split my paper up into kind of panels, what would signify panels. So fortunately I've got a set square here, but to make it a bit easier for myself. That's how it looks. Okay, so you've got a little bit left at the bottom, so you can change the size if you want. And then on the landscape one, I did the same thing. So I've got those 3 panels. And then the way that I did it was I put as if they were on pieces of paper, if they were on a bench. I'll just pick it up to show you. So I've laid it down quite nicely with the smaller kind of bit on that top panel towards the top. And then what I've done is what I then did was just roughly mark where I want the top of my sail to be and where I want the bottom. Depends obviously what sort of sail you're making. You can make a Oppie sail, a topper sail. I've then got, fortunate for me, I've got a long rule. And on each of the kind of panel bits, I've just marked where those lines go through, and I do the same for the luff. What would be the luff of my sail? Okay, so again, I'll just pick it up. Hopefully you can see the sort of thing that I've done. So I've marked the top, and then on each line I've put some other lines that we can then line up later on. Make sure that the lines are fairly long, because once we then stick them together, they're obviously going to move down the page. So next thing I do, or you can do, is cut those, what will then be your panels up. Okay, so I've got them all in strips now. And what I'm going to do is start at the top of the sail and work my way down. So find the one with what you marked as your top. Okay, so if you watched Michael McNamara's video on how sails are made, then you'll see that he always starts from the top and works down, and starts from the leech and works across the luff. Having worked with him for a few years, that's just kind of ingrained in me. So I'm starting at the top. I'm making sure all my leeches are always to the left of me, and then the luffs are to the right. You'll be able to see if you've got it wrong, like I did there originally, that your lines won't line up if you do that. So make sure you've got the right bits. So my top panel I can put to one side because I don't put any shaping on that, because that's going to stick to the other one. Then I get my piece of card, just because that's easy to manipulate. You could try, if you've got one of those flexi rulers, they'll be good. If you've got an empty cereal box, that would be quite good to use. Just find something around your house that can still be kind of bent. And you need to make sure that when you're putting the shaping on, that you're putting it on between these lines. If you find it easy, you can cut the excess off a little bit, but make sure you leave some on if you want to put some luff curve on. So on this, I'm lining up the card, and then kind of trying to put some shaping on. If I had 6 hands, it would be a lot easier, but I don't. So a bit of weight on the top. Or what you can do is, if you're really good at drawing curves, you can do it freehand. So I've put a tiny little bit of shaping on. It's still not a very good curve, but something to work with. I then get my sellotape, and we're fortunate enough in the loft to have double-sided, so if you've got double-sided tape, that would be even easier. But if you don't, what you can do is cut length. So I've got my length of sellotape, and then just fold it kind of in thirds to make it smaller, making sure that the sticky is on the outside, so you've got sticky both sides. And then I just stick it to my line. Obviously, if you've got double-sided, make it easier. So I've stuck the sticky to my line, and then just cut off that extra piece of paper at the top. You could cut the paper if you want to first and then put the sticky on, it's up to you. Then what I'm going to do is, just to show you, is take the top panel and then stick it to that sticky. Remembering that there is a bit of shaping, so you've got to try and curve it round that sellotape. So you can see that there is a little bit of shaping on that. That's come out better than my last one. Okay, so moving down the cell, put that to one side. Do the shaping on the next panel. So again, I'll get my card. Trying to remember what Michael said on his video of the further down the cell you get, the more shaping you put into it. Okay, so I've done the same thing again, drawn my line on there. Get my sellotape. Okay, so stick it on to that line that you drew in. Remember to put some shape into it. Okay, and then again, take the top part of your sail, line those lines up that you drew on to start with, and stick it to it. You guys will probably be better than me at this. Okay, working down the sail again, making sure that you've got the right bit. Okay, so now we have a basic sail. Ooh, won't hold it quite so close, it looks really quite rubbish at the minute. But we can see that I've managed to get some shape into it. Okay, so we drew those lines on before. So what we're now going to do is, I'm quite fortunate that my rule is quite flexy. I'm going to put a bit of luff curve onto it, so it's going to be a mainsail. So I've marked the bottom again, just because it might have been cut off on this one. And because it's a mainsail, Michael said that we need that luff curve on, so I can manipulate it. You can get a longer piece of cardboard that would help you, or you could just do it a straight line. If you're doing a offie sail, you'll have to do a few more. So I've drawn a bit of a, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I'll cut it off and that might help. A bit of a luff curve on there. So I've sort of ignored those lines that I originally had, but they gave me a sort of help. What you could do is probably draw the luff curve on to start with. when you draw it out. So it's got a bit of a loft curve on. And then my back edge, I'm just going to draw a straight line. Okay, and then the last thing is obviously putting the foot on. So I'm going to have a bit of foot droop on mine so it sticks out the bottom, like we do on kind of Genoas and topper sails, and Oppies have it as well. You can put different size foot droop on. Draw that in and cut it off. And there we have a sail with some shaping on it. This is definitely better than my other 2 attempts. And now what you could do is you could draw on it. So I could put I'm going to pretend this is a topper sail. There we have my sail.
Thanks, Flip. Here's one I made earlier. Get creative, put in your eyelets, your batten pockets, your sail numbers, and colour your sail in if it's a colourful sail. There is British Sailing Team merchandise up for grabs if you go onto Instagram and hashtag sail from home.